Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's Thursday morning for those of you that didn't know. Good morning, Miss Donna, Javi. Good to see you. Missed you last night. I don't know if you were just sleeping or what, but I missed you. Tao, good morning. Taylor, good morning. Jorosa, Sharon, good morning, all of you guys. Those on Facebook, please like it, share it, comment, because we all know that Facebook is temperamental. Oh, good morning, Jason. Good to see you. Good morning, everyone. What all announcements do we have? I know we have ChatGPT says good morning. We were just talking about ChatGPT. That's why he says that. He's trying to be funny, but he had to pull that joke from ChatGPT. Good morning, Kristen. Throw up the announcements, Jason. Dr. Guy Pei is here August 24th. You don't want to miss that. That's always a good one. Thank you for your overwhelming support. Good morning, Angela. Go on. Back to school Freedom Bash. That already happened. That's this Saturday. Is back to school one? Party. Got you. My bad. That's me. This Saturday, both locations at Lake Colony and Republic. At 10:30, just to be clear, that's at 10:30. In the summer, we always do it at 10:30 so that you're not passing out. What else we got? Baptisms. Baptisms are this Sunday. If you want to sign up for those, we've already got a few signed up. We also have Covenant Members Class starting this Sunday. Now I'm putting Jason to the test. Covenant Members Class, if you haven't joined Church in the City yet, but you know that the Lord is telling you this is your home church, go ahead and scan that QR code, sign up for Covenant Members Class, and be here this Sunday. Good morning, Miss Dawn. City Young Adults, I can just hear Dallas. Woo! I love when he does that. You remember whenever, was it Pastor Ryan one Wednesday was talking about Whataburger, and they had like a whole conversation about the boneless wings that Whataburger started? Hey, Paul and Patricia, good to see you. So legit, this Whataburger right here by the church has gone downhill since Dallas transferred. Like weren't you and I talking about that the other day? Like the times and stuff that it took. Dallas was always quick. I don't know if he was in charge over there or what, but ever since he's gotten transferred to Rockwall, it's just not the same. All right, young adults. Go back to young adults. Sorry. City Young Adults. They have a gathering this Friday, or a service this Friday at 7 p.m. in the Student Center, so you can scan that QR code for more information. Festo, good to see you. What else you got? Men's ministry. Our men's group, real men talking about real issues. All the men that go love this. And if my body would allow me to get up early enough to go, I would 100% be there. And I've always wanted to be one of those early risers so I can get my workout done before the beginning of the day. And my body's always like, yeah, no. So I have to buffet. I need to learn how to buffet my body better in the mornings. What else you got? Life groups. I talked about this last night. If you are not part of a life group, don't make excuses. I'm being transparent, honest. I want to be. Mallory does great. There was a season when she was working in the hospitals. She still works in the hospitals, but when she used to work full time and 3 days a week, she would get up at like 4 a.m. Hey, Joel, good to see you. At 4 a.m., knock her workout out, then go work a 12-hour shift at work. And now she's doing, like, she basically wakes up almost every day at like 6:30 and goes and does at least a 2-mile walk with a weighted vest. And then she comes back and does her day. So, yeah, no, Dallas had it going over there. It's gone to pot now. So, anything else? That's it. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed last night because we're going to wrap up what I was talking, my notes from last night. And it's always encouraging because for those of you that preach, you always go into your message like, oh man, is this going to work out? Is this going to, like, I know I've studied for this. I know this is what the Lord told me, but I hope it actually hits. Like, I hope it actually helps someone. I hope it actually, like, affects someone's life, because that's the whole reason we do what we do. And I was talking, me, Pastor Ryan, some other people. Yeah, I'm very consistent at working out in the afternoons, which some days it's great, other days it's 110 and you feel like junk. But anywho, Pastor Ryan and I were talking about this with someone yesterday, and it's just like, hey, like, you got to go preach what the Lord tells you to preach. And it doesn't matter. Most people won't remember what you preached last night. But when you're consistent in what you preach and teach, then over a period of time, you can see it affecting people's lives, and so can they. So last night we talked about when it feels like there is no way, or when there is no way, the Lord makes a way. And it was just encouraging last night after service, and even while I was praying for people, you could see that message was for them. And in fact, I had one lady, like, Pastor Larry and I were praying for her, and I was like, even if it was just for you, this was for you. Because she was just weeping and receiving, and then she got filled with joy. And then someone else came up to me in after service, like, this was for me, this is what I'm dealing with at work, yada, 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 yada. So it's always encouraging when you hear those kind of things, and it makes you know you're on the right track. So that was another reason I really wanted to continue on, because I had another message for today, to the point where I had Jason and Clemmy make 2 graphics, and Jason was like, which one are we using this morning? But it's always good. All right, so last night we talked about David and Goliath, and Saul even told David, there's no way you can possibly fight this Philistine and win. You're only a boy. Then I got into the whole, you cannot do the impossible with someone else's anointing. We saw that with David and Saul. Saul tried to give David his armor. David put it on, and he's like, there's no way I can go out there with these things. He went out there with his anointing, which was just a slingshot and a stone, even though it looked ridiculous to all of the warriors, all of the trained fighting men. It looked ridiculous. But it was his anointing that the Lord had given him, and because of that, he was able to do the impossible. The other big thing about David is he said, today the Lord will conquer you. I will kill you and cut your head off, and then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And there you see, like, we've got to ask ourselves, what is coming out of our mouths? When we face a situation that seems impossible, like there's no way out, are we giving in? Is our mouth confessing defeat, or is it confessing victory? Our mouth has to constantly be confessing victory. We have to constantly believe in here. No matter what our head is saying, no matter what our eyes see, what our ears hear, in here we have to believe that the Lord is going to show up, that the Lord's going to make a way. It doesn't matter how impossible it seems, whatever it is, finances, your marriage, anything. You have to believe the Lord will show up. We went to Exodus chapter 14 and talked about the Red Sea crossing, God splitting the seas. And I kind of joked, but was very serious. And it always comes up in a lot of my messages. We have to get persistent in pursuing God, even in the midst of other people's murmuring and complaining. Because there will always be people around you that murmur, that complain, that doubt, that don't see what God is telling you. They're like, how are you going to do that? Why would you do that? Like, they don't get it. When I went to Bible school, people didn't get it. Whenever I went to overseas, people didn't get it. When I moved back, people didn't get it. Like, you have to get to the point where you don't care what other people say. As long as you know what the Word says, as long as you know what the Lord's told you. And yes, you have your inner circle of wise counsel. But outside of that, you don't care. You do what Jesus did. Be quiet and get out. Amen. So then we went on to Elijah being fed by ravens, which is always funny to me. And this is just kind of how my brain thinks. But the fact that God used ravens of all animals to bring Elijah food when ravens are scavengers and just consume anything they see. They don't care if it's dead. They don't care if it's alive. They don't care. He used a raven to bring Elijah food. That just shows that God will use what looks ridiculous in the natural, what looks impossible in the natural, to do what he's ordained to do. Then we talked about the 3 Hebrew boys not burned in the fire. They didn't even smell like fire. Not one hair on their head was singed. Whenever you make a stand for God and do what he's told you to do, you'll come out of trials that not even realizing you went through a trial. You won't smell like the trial. You won't look like the trial. You won't look all worn out because you've been through something. I used the illustration last night. You know, when you walk through, for those of you that have ever been to Tampa, you'll understand this analogy, especially those of us that lived there, unfortunately. But in the summer, it rains every day. It may be 30 minutes, it may be an hour, but it rains pretty much every day. And it's not like a normal rain. It's like the heavens opened up and they have to empty everything in a set amount of time to get it out of the heavens. So if you're walking from the car to a building at that point, people, when you walk into the building, are going to know that you were affected by that storm. And in the kingdom, it's going to be the opposite. Even though you went through a torrential storm, people won't even know because you will have no visual effects of that storm. Then we went to Daniel in the lion's den, where the same thing. Daniel took a stand and was praying to God even though he was told he could not. He didn't try to hide. He had his windows wide open, prayed 3 times a day, didn't change anything. And he got thrown into the lion's den, and not one scratch. And what I loved about this one is the king actually said, "Oh, Daniel, I pray that the God you serve so faithfully will rescue you." And then the next morning, "Daniel, did the God you serve so faithfully, did he rescue you?" And Daniel cries out, "Yes, he has rescued me." He shut the lion's mouth. And that's what you'll see. People will come out against you, make up lies, make up things about you, manipulate things, and the Lord will just shut their mouths. It'll all get exposed. Time will tell the truth, and you won't even be scathed by it. So let's hop to the next one, because that's where we stopped last night. So let's go to Matthew 14. Matthew 14, verse 15. That evening the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." So right there, it seems impossible in the natural, and you can see the disciples' reaction to that. "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. God's provision isn't limited to natural resources. That's what we have to realize, is that God's provision is not limited to your natural resources. He told the disciples, you feed them. You feed them. What does that mean? That means the same ability that Jesus had lived inside the disciples. And that's what we have to realize, is the same. Jesus even told us, you will do the same works that I do and greater works. So we have the same ability to produce that Jesus did. We have no need, we produce. We are a source of supply. That's what we have to get. Psalms 1, in fact, let's just go there. Also, while we're on it, you don't want to miss Livestream next week. Jose and Rosa will be on to talk about Botswana. And then the only ones we have left are Joel and Samara, trying to figure out time to get them on. So Jose and Rosa will be with you next week live to talk to you about Botswana and everything they encountered there. So Psalms chapter 1, oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked or stand around with sinners or join in with mockers, but they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Hey, Hector, good to see you. Bearing fruit each season. So that's what we have to see. It also says, their leaves will never wither, and they prosper in all they do. I wonder what the Amplified says. Amplified says, blessed, happy, fortunate, prosperous, and enviable is the man who walks and lives not in the counsel of the ungodly, follows their advice, their plans and purposes, nor stands submissive and inactive in the paths where sinners walk, nor sits down to relax and rest where the scornful and the mockers gather. But his delight and desire are in the law of the Lord, and on his law the precepts, the instructions, the teachings of God. He habitually meditates, ponders, and studies by day and night. He shall be like a tree firmly planted and tended by the streams. What does that mean? Fed by the streams. Fed by the streams of water, ready to bring forth its fruit in its season. Its leaf also shall not fade or wither, and everything he does shall prosper and come to maturity. So we see, we are designed by God to produce fruit in every season. Our leaves shall not wither, and everything we do shall be prosperous. So right there, Jesus confirms that right there. You feed them. You feed them. You are a source of provision. Whether you realize that or not, whether you have the revelation of that or not, God has put the same thing in you that was in Jesus. Everywhere Jesus went, he was a source of provision. From the turning the water to wine, feeding the 4,000, feeding the 5,000. I'm getting way ahead of myself. The coin in the fish's mouth. Everything. And we carry that same thing. Jesus said, you will do the same works and greater works. Most people always like to think of the miracles, like the laying hands on the sick and people being healed. But he's also talking about being a source of provision. He's also talking about making a difference in people's lives, setting people free. One way to set people free, how many of you know at least 10 people that are bound by money? All they talk about is money. You can say you don't serve money, but when all you talk about is money, whether it's you have a lot of money or you have no money, but you're always talking about how much money you don't have, you're serving money. Do you hear that? If you talk about how much money you don't have and how many bills you have more than you talk about God, you're serving the money over God. Most people think I'm only serving money if I'm always after money and always have tons of money. No, you can do it. You can still serve mammon if you don't have any, because you're always chasing it and always complaining about how much you don't have. Anyways, Matthew 17. Let's go to Matthew 17. Verse 24. When they had come to Capernaum, those who received the temple tax came to Peter and said, does your teacher not pay the temple tax? He said, yes. And when he had come into the house, Jesus anticipated him, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take customs or taxes? From their sons or from strangers?" Peter said to him, "From strangers." Jesus said to him, "Then the sons are free. Nevertheless, we offend them. Go to the sea, cast in a hook, and take the fish that comes up first. And when you have opened his mouth, you will find a piece of money. Take that and give it to them for me and for you." That's not a normal way to pay your taxes. If it was, I would be a better fisherman. But this is what I'm saying. What looks ridiculous to man is the normal for God. We've got to get to the point where when the Lord tells us something, we're not going, "That doesn't make sense. There's no way that could happen." Yeah, in your finite mind, your minuscule thinking, it can't happen. But when we start having the mind of Christ and thinking like Jesus did, then we will always see a way of provision. We've got to stop seeing the problem and start seeing provision. We've got to stop seeing the sickness and seeing the wholeness. We've got to stop seeing all these things the world shows us. The world constantly puts doubt and fear in front of our mind. They're constantly saying there's going to be inflation. The housing market's about to crash. The food prices, the egg prices. You know how many times I stopped eating eggs in the last 3 years because the prices were so high? None. I mean, how many people stop filling their car up even if the gas price is high? None. So why do we allow this pandering to affect us? Why do we allow this propaganda to affect us? We are a source of provision. It doesn't matter what it looks like. We should stop praying for our own needs and start saying, "All right, Lord, I believe you at your word. Not only will you take care of my needs, but you're going to bless me according to your word." In fact, I shared on this last night. I'll just read it. I have it right here. I don't know. I didn't know why I brought it, but this is why. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 9. I turned right to it. We'll start in verse 5. "That is why I thought it necessary to urge these brethren to go before I do and make arrangements in advance for this bountiful promised gift of yours, so that it may be ready, not as an extortion wrung out of you, but as a generous and willing gift." Now just read, or just follow along. Listen to this. It keeps this whole passage that we're going to read 6 or 7 verses, and it just keeps building on each other and getting better and better. And you got to remember, this is the Lord speaking over you. Verse 6, "Remember this, he who sows sparingly and grudgingly will also reap sparingly and grudgingly. And he who sows generously, that blessings may come to someone, will also reap generously and with blessings." How many of you want to reap sparingly? Probably no one. But how many of you want to reap so much that you can bless other people? Then we've got to check the attitude of our giving. But this whole thing's talking about you being a source of provision. Verse 7, "Let each one give as he is made up in his own mind and purposed in his own heart, not reluctantly or sorrowfully or under compulsion. For God loves, he takes pleasure," listen to this, "he takes pleasure in, prizes above other things, and is unwilling to abandon or go without a cheerful, prompt-to-do giver, whose heart is in his giving." Right there it says, he is unwilling to abandon you if you're a joyous giver. Even when you don't feel like you have anything to give. Even when you feel like, "Lord, I should really be paying off this card or this car or this debt," or whatever it is. And you still give with a good attitude, and as soon as he tells you to give, you do it. It says he will never abandon. He's unwilling to abandon you. Verse 8, "And God is able to make all grace, every favor, and earthly blessing come to you in abundance." See, that's what I'm saying. It just gets fun. Like, it gets exciting. "So that you may always and under all circumstances and whatever the need, be self-sufficient." Be self-sufficient in all circumstances. In fact, if you're at a place where you can say that out loud, just say, I will always, in all circumstances, be self-sufficient. This is a big revelation. Like if you get a hold of this, then it doesn't matter what storm, what trial comes your way, when it looks like there is no way, you will know that with God, there is always a way. In fact, he tells us, I quoted this last night, but he tells us in his word, he will never allow us to be tempted by something that we cannot overcome. It also says that he will also always provide a way of escape. Anyways, back to verse 8. And God, who is able to make all grace, every favor and earthly blessing come to you in abundance, so that you may always and under all circumstances and whatever the need be self-sufficient. Listen to what it says. Possessing enough to require no aid or support, and furnished in abundance for every good work and charitable donation. That's every good work. You will have, God's desires for you to have enough provision that you can take care of yourself, you can take care of others, you can give to every good work, whether that's the SPCA, whether that's the WWE, the World Wildlife Federation, whatever it is in your eyes that is a good thing, and I'm even talking past church and the kingdom right now. If you see it as a good thing, orphans, whatever it is, if you see it as a good thing, it says that he desires that you would have enough provision to take care of all that. Verse 9, as it is written, he, the benevolent person, talking about you, scatters abroad, he gives to the poor. His deeds of justice and goodness and kindness and benevolence will go on and endure forever. And God, who provides seed to the sower, that's the other thing I hit on last night. If you say, Pashan, I don't have finances to sow, then determine with God and tell him, God, you put seed in my hand, I'm going to be a sower. You keep doing that, then the amounts are going to increase and increase and increase, because you're going to prove yourself faithful. You're going to prove yourself true, that God, you can trust me with this small amount, so you can keep increasing me. He gives seed to the sower. He provides seed for the sower and bread for eating. Will also provide and multiply. This is what's really cool. Hey, Tony. He will provide and multiply your resources for sowing. Right? That is being self-sufficient. That is getting this revelation that, look, it may look impossible with man, but with God living on the inside of me, nothing is impossible. And he's going to increase and multiply my resources for sowing, and increase the fruit of your righteousness, which, listen to this, which manifests itself in active goodness, kindness, and charity. Thus, verse 11, thus you will be enriched in all things and in every way, so that you can be generous. And your generosity, as it is administered by us, will bring forth thanksgiving to God. And then here's where it gets really cool. For the service that this ministering of this fund renders does not only fully supply what is lacking to the saints, God's people, but it also overflows in many cries of thanksgiving to God. Because at your standing of the test of this ministry, they will glorify God for your loyalty and obedience to the gospel of Christ, which you confessed, as well as for your generous-hearted liberality to them and to all the other needy ones. Your giving, your persistence in doing what God's told you to do will determine if others give thanks to God. Yeah, and I talked about it last night. But when you give here to church in the city, you're giving for outreaches. You're giving to the benevolence program. Other people sit at home and thank God that their light bill was paid this month, that their soul was saved this month. All of that is only available if your giving happens. That's what I'm saying. You are a source of provision already, whether you see it or not. You're already, by your giving a way for someone else to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. You are changing someone else's life by being a source of provision. And that's where we have to get to. And that was just back to where I keep going back to this, but Jesus said, you give them something to eat. You have something on the inside of you today, whether you realize it or not. You are a carrier of provision. You are anointed to provide for others. You bring breakthrough in others because of your generosity. That's what we just read. That is exactly what we read in 2 Corinthians verse 9. Chapter 9. So let's go over to Acts 12. Man, I get excited reading 2 Corinthians 9 in the Amplified. Like it's just so good. Like when you get a hold of that, like, Lord, I want to be a giver. Okay, it says, if you are a sower, he will give you seed. And it says, as long as you keep sowing, and I don't know why I'm stuck on this, but it's just so good. As long as you keep sowing, he's going to increase and multiply your resources for sowing. And what's cool about this, if you get way into this, and I'm getting way off track, but it's fun. The more you sow, the more you reap. So if you just get an attitude of sowing and don't even focus on the reaping, then we get into Deuteronomy 28, which is what I was going to preach on today. Or teach, or whatever this is. Live stream. Is that a verb? Can we make that a verb? I was going to live stream. Well, I guess it technically is kind of a verb. Then you get into Deuteronomy 28, where because you're so focused on allowing God to work through you in the area of sowing and reaping, that you get to Deuteronomy 28, where all these blessings will come upon you and overtake you. You weren't even necessarily seeking the reaping, but it comes upon you and just overtakes you. That's when you become blessed in the city and blessed in the field and blessed everywhere you go, blessed coming in, blessed going out. The fruit of your hands, all of that, all of it. You've got to realize I'm a source of provision. Even though your finances may not be perfect, right? You have to realize it doesn't matter because you're a source of provision. If you get a hold of that and keep sowing, then it'll automatically do exactly what we're talking about. To where it didn't look like you were ever going to get out of debt. But because of your sowing and your generosity and your attitude in doing so, the Lord will flip it and immediately and supernaturally get you out of debt. That's what the coin in the fish's mouth was. That was the widow with the jar of oil. That's what that was. David killing Goliath got his family out of paying taxes for the rest of their lives. The borrowed axe head. That's supernatural debt cancellation. But you've got to get a revelation that you're a source of provision. You've got to get a revelation that my giving unlocks things for me, yes, but also for others. Acts 12. Acts chapter 12, verse 5. Peter was therefore kept in prison, but constant prayer was offered to God for him by the church. And when Herod was about to bring him out that night, Peter was sleeping, bound with 2 chains. That was his rap name. Between 2 soldiers, and the guards before the door were keeping the prison. Now behold, an angel of the Lord stood by him, and a light shone in the prison. And he struck Peter on the side. Can you imagine getting punched in the side of the ribs by an angel? Maybe Pastor Allen was my angel for those 4 years, because he always just hit me and abused me. I didn't know angels were abusive, but now I see it. Thank you, Pastor Allen, for the abuse. See, Jason, it makes more sense now, doesn't it? Struck him on the side and raised him up, saying, "Arise quickly." And his chains fell off his hands. Then the angel said to him, "Gird yourself and tie on your sandals." And so he did. And he said to him, "Put on your garment and follow me." So he went out and followed him, and did not know what had been done by the angel was real. This is what I'm talking about. You will find yourself in situations where it feels like there is no way out. That's what we're talking about. When there's no way out. But God will do something that looks ridiculous in the natural, to where even Peter was like, didn't think this was real. Didn't think an angel punched him in the ribs. Didn't think his chains fell off. Did not know what was done by the angel was real, but thought he was seeing a vision. When they were past the first and the second guard post, they came to the iron gate that lead to the city, which opened to them of its own accord. These gates open by themselves. How many of you have been to a door, I mean, not the electronic doors, but a normal door that just opens by itself? Have you ever done that? No. But God can do the impossible. And they went out and went down one street, and immediately the angel departed from him. And when Peter had come to himself and said, "Now I know for certain that the Lord has sent his angel and has delivered me from the hand of Herod and from all the expectation of the Jewish people." So when he had considered this, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark, where they were gathered together praying. And as Peter knocked at the door of the gate, a girl named Rhoda came to answer. When she recognized Peter's voice because of her gladness, she did not open the gate, but ran and announced. It's pretty crazy that one gate opened by itself, and then a girl that recognized Peter's voice didn't open the gate. It's just funny. I don't know. Anyways. She recognized Peter's voice because of her gladness and did not open the gate, but ran in and announced it that Peter stood before the gates. But they said to her, "You are beside yourself." Yet she kept insisting that it was so. So they said to "It is his angel." Now Peter continued knocking. Can you imagine that? The Lord supernaturally set you free out of prison with an angel. And then here you are knocking on the door where people know you and are praying for you that you would be released. And you keep knocking. "Hey, let me in." "Oh, hey, it's Peter. He's here." It can't be him. I know we're praying. This is what we do. This is so funny. This is what I love about the Lord. He does things like this just to show us how funny we are. We're literally praying for something. And then when the answer is knocking at our door, we're like, surely this can't be real. Surely this couldn't have happened. This reminds me of whenever I recommitted my life to the Lord. Y'all pretty much all know the story. When I was in the shower praying with beer in my hand, and I say, "Lord, if you're real, if you still love me, if you still have a plan for my life, it's got to stop. It's got to change." And one of the other things I prayed was, I had just signed a year lease in my house. And I was like, "Lord, I've got to move back in with my parents so I can have that accountability to build my foundation for a year," or whatever it was. And all that happens. The next day, the landlord calls and it says, "Sean, hey, we need to have a meeting." Yeah, okay, cool. I wasn't worried about it. In the meeting, he has me and my roommate, "Sean, I'm going to have to kick you out." And in my flesh, I'm instantly like, "What? I didn't do anything." And as I'm fuming internally, the Lord goes, "What did you ask me for yesterday?" Hey, Stacy. "What did you ask me for yesterday?" And I just sat back and shut up. So many times we miss what the Lord's trying to do for us. We miss the door the Lord's trying to open for us because we're like, "Oh, surely that's not what the Lord's going to do." Just because we expect it in a certain box, right? We expect it wrapped in a certain way. But surely we should know by now the Lord doesn't operate in the way we think. His ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. We've got to learn to expect anything from the Lord in any package. It doesn't just come the way we think it would. It's kind of funny. How would they expect them to publicly release Peter? They're asking God for a supernatural release of Peter, and then here's Peter. "Hey, I'm here." "No, that's not Peter." "What were you just praying for?" So I just think it's funny. And then it goes on. Now Peter continued knocking, and when they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. But motioning to them with his hand to keep silent, he declared to them how the Lord had brought him out of prison. And he said, "Go tell these things to James, to the brethren." He departed there. As soon as it was day, there was no small stir among the soldiers about what had become of Peter. But when Herod had searched for him and not found him, he examined the guards and commanded they should be put to death. So right there, even though it seems like there is no way out, God made a way out. And then we can wrap it up with this. Paul and Silas in prison. We all know this story, right? Maybe you don't. If not, we'll read it. So Paul and Silas had been arrested, and in verse 23, Acts 16, verse 23, it says, "When they had laid many stripes on them," and this is always what's fun for me. In fact, I'm going to read it out of the Bible, out of the actual Bible, not my paper. verse 23. They were severely beaten and they were thrown into prison. The jailer was ordered to make sure they didn't escape. So the jailer put them into the inner dungeon and clamped their feet into stocks. Around midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. What does that mean? They were giving thanks to God even though they were beat, thrown in the inner dungeon, and chained, and probably had prison guards right outside their door if they were in the inner dungeon. And what were they? Were they murmuring? Were they complaining? No, they were singing praises to God. You've got to learn in the midst of your heaviest storm, in the midst of your biggest trial, instead of grumbling and complaining, sing praises to God. What kind of attitude do you have in the midst of your trials? James said, count it all as joy. Count it all as joy that the Lord would entrust you with a test that He knew you could pass. That's the thing you've got to realize. The Lord will never give you a test you can't pass. It's up to you to determine if you're going to pass it or not, though. The Lord has enough confidence in you. The Lord has enough belief in you that this person can pass this test, or I wouldn't have given it to him. I would not have allowed it to happen. The Lord, not every test comes from the Lord, but He can allow it to happen or not. He already knows you can pass it. You just have to gird up yourself, like the angel told Peter. Gird yourself up. That means some days are going to be hard. Some days you got to suck it up. But you've got to tap into this, the Word of God. You've got to tap into what's on the inside of you, the Spirit of God, and realize that He's already given you the victory, and just walk through the steps. So the jailer put them into the inner dungeon and clamped their feet in the stocks. Around midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening. Suddenly there was a massive earthquake, and the prison was shaken to its foundation. All the doors immediately flew open, and the chains of every prisoner fell off. I mean, that's pretty remarkable in itself. I can see the doors opening in an earthquake, but the chains falling off, how does an earthquake shake chains off of somebody? The jailer woke up to see the prison doors wide open. He assumed the prisoners had escaped, so he drew his sword to kill himself, but Paul shouted to him, "Stop! Don't kill yourself. We are all here." The jailer called for lights and ran to the dungeon and fell down trembling before Paul and Silas. Then he brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" Your faith in the midst of a trial, your faith in the midst of a storm can determine someone else's salvation and the trajectory of their life. They replied, "Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, along with everyone in your household." And they shared the word of the Lord with him and with all who lived in his house. Even at that hour of the night, in the middle of the night, the jailer cared for them and washed their wounds. See, that's what you got to understand. The jailer was probably someone that was watching as they were beaten, maybe even laughed, maybe even mocked. But here he is now cleaning those same wounds. Then he and everyone in his household were immediately baptized. He brought them into his house and set a meal before them, and he and his entire household rejoiced because they all believed in God. Paul and Silas's attitude in the midst of a trial determined the salvation of a whole household. It flipped that jailer from being someone that was probably angry at Paul, angry at Silas, maybe whatever, mocked them, laughed at them, ridiculed them, to making them clean, the jailer and his family clean their wounds, make a meal for them, and rejoice that they all came to know the Lord. Your attitude in the midst of a trial can determine your way out as well. Can determine how smooth your way is out. So, in closing, remember, in Matthew 19:26, I've quoted it probably 5 times. It says this, "With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible." And anytime you're faced with a storm or a trial, just confess that. Father, I thank you that with man this may look impossible, but with you nothing is impossible. 1 Corinthians 10:13, the New Living says this. This is another one you should probably memorize and quote over yourself regularly. "The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can handle or more than you can stand.
when you are tempted, he will always, one translation says, he will always show you a way out. Another one says, he will always show you a way to be rescued so that you can endure. So no matter what the test is, no matter what the trial is, no matter how big it seems, always remember, number one, you're not alone. Number two, it may look impossible with man, but with God, all things are possible. And number three, you will never be allowed to be tempted or tested by something that you cannot overcome. He will always give you a way out. Amen? That's what I have for you this morning. If you have any questions, I'll hang on here for just a few minutes. We haven't done questions in a while. That was a fun one today. It's hard when you get into that preach mode while you're sitting here at a table, but I like it. It's fun. All right. Well, I guess you got no questions. That's usually one of two extremes. It's either a really good thing or a really bad thing. All right. Well, love you guys. Join us at 2 p.m. with Pastor Mallory. And then we'll see you Saturday for outreach. We also, don't forget, Pastor Andrew and Pastor Kinsey are live tomorrow morning. Then we always have Good News live stream at 6 p.m. with Pastor Mike. And then we have our back to school party. Is that what it's called? Back to school party. What was the last one called? So it's just party is thrown in there. Okay. Paul, Patricia, love you guys. Miss y'all. Y'all are amazing people. If you don't know Paul and Patricia Lindenberg, you need to book your trip to South Africa, to Tabazimbi, and let them minister to you for a couple weeks. They'll change your life. Let them take you wherever they're going to go. I think they're about to go up to Mozambique here in the next couple months. Probably pop into Zambia if they're not still mad at Zambia. It's actually Botswana's fault, Paul. It wasn't Zambia's fault. But all right, love you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you at 2. We'll see you in the morning. We'll see you at outreach. And then we'll see you Sunday morning. Love you guys. Bye.